that's why everybody's kind of behind in what they were actually doing. Like, yeah, they were doing stuff prior and didn't have really any clout on the net or anything like that. But you have to realize that time frame in the net, like people didn't really have clout like that, bro. And then even like with the Ian Connors and stuff, I mean, before they became consultants and stuff like that, or people knew who were on the radar, like the people in the street that are that are the grassroots stuff, they have to talk about them before you even get on anybody's radar.
I disagree. Because if you use that, if we're using that specific example, the Tumblr kids that we like to call them,
I'm not saying specifically for them. I'm saying if we're generally speaking about, like, you're saying people having like their eyes on talent and stuff of that nature. People aren't gonna have their eyes on you, even take notice of you, unless the everyday people aren't fucking with you. If that makes sense. The masses aren't already fucking with you, bro.
That's why I'm using Ian Connor and them as an example. Ian Connor and them, they just literally were just some niggas that was around. Ian Connor moved from Atlanta, right? And he was just in New York, and he just dressed kind of fly. He ended up linking up with the ASAP Mob. He ended up linking up with Virgil Abloh. That's when they were doing the Pyrex Vision shit.
True, because you bring in like a whole different perspective, bro.
So Virgil Abloh is already known. Ablow's already known as a DJ. He's already a designer for Pyrex, right? Pyrex at the time was one of the biggest streetwear brands ever during the reconnaissance of fashion, whatever. I'm saying this to say, before Ian Connor even got to a Supreme, Virgil seen him, ASAP Mob seen him. And at that point, once he started wearing the clothes and Instagram really got popular, maybe like 2 or 3 years later, then we could say that, okay, yeah, it kind of looked like he's just grinding or doing whatever.
But wouldn't you consider Virgil already, like, Virgil's part? So we're talking about different types of industry people, if that makes sense. Like, I like Virgil is somebody who's ingrained in that street culture. He's on the ground. A lot of the people that are quote unquote in the industry you're talking about, they aren't on the ground the way the Virgils and stuff like that are, because that's what makes like them different, in my opinion. But that's what makes like the Virgils and all them great, is because they're literally still ingrained, and they keep those young people around them to point out, oh, this person's popping, this person's doing this.
But in that sense, you're not wrong. But what I'm also saying is, put it in perspective like this.
Right.
During that time frame, specifically for the New York, for LA, that was the time when around people were looking for streetwear. They were looking for fresh ideas.
Yeah, 100%.
Obviously, with Virgil, you saw that. But what you also kind of saw in that same instance was you saw a lot of luxury brands trying to look for streetwear influencers too. That's why the whole Kanye situation was happening when he was screaming back in his Yeezus era.
Right.
He was screaming about that because y'all looking for streetwear influence. I damn near ran streetwear for a good 10, 12 years, but y'all treating me like I'm crazy.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like a lot of these brands started looking into that, but also at the same time, if you were in New York and you're doing the work already, Ian Connor wouldn't have gotten to the place where he was at if he was just there, just being whoever. He knew where he had to be. The same thing with Justine Skye, Glenn Brown, and all of them. Glenn Brown, to this day, he's a manager for the same dude that just produced for Drake. At the time, if you didn't know who he was, you wouldn't have known, just because he was just a New York nigga that got fly.
True.
But that was not the only thing that they did.
And just to keep the convo like around like the question of making it out of your hometown, I mean, like, well, with that, even like with the situation with Ian Connor and stuff like that, going to a different place, do you think leaving your hometown creates more opportunity for I guess diversity in any given industry? We'll talk about fashion because we were talking on the fashion topic. Like, Ian Connor came to a new city, so like his style was a little different, that made him stand out. So that's why he could elevate. Or do you?
Yeah, I mean, he grew up in Atlanta. Atlanta was not what Atlanta was like 10 years ago.